It is just a huge honor for me today to be podcast interviewing Dr. Ivy D. Peltz and Dr. Eric S. Studley, who I can assure you is a stud. They're both in New York right now. Dr. Ivy Peltz and Dr. Eric Studley are both general practice directors and clinical associate professors at New York University College of Dentistry. Now that's NYU. When 7.5% of all the dentists in America graduate from NYU. That is a huge school. In the Department of Cariology and Comprehensive Care, where Dr. Studley is also the Director of Practice Management and Ergonomics. Dr. Studley is the CEO of a nationally based insurance brokerage company, Eric S. Studley and Associates Incorporated, specializing in the insurance and financial needs of dentists. And you can find his website at drericstudley.com. Since 2001, Dr. Studley has consistently been the #1 disability producer in the United States with Guardian Life Insurance Company of America and Berkshire Life Insurance Company of America. In 2016, he received the Disability Quality Award and the Life Insurance Quality Award from the National Association of Insurance and Financial Advisors. He is a Guardian Platinum Level Disability Insurance Inner Circle member, Guardian Disability Agent of the Year, Guardian Elite Program member, Platinum Advantage Life member. He is the Guardian President's Council, the Guardian Executive Committee, the Guardian Leaders Club, and past president of their field force. He has been awarded numerous awards annually based on his extraordinary sales and persistent record. He is a renowned speaker in the dental community and has lectured throughout the country on the subjects of insurance planning, risk and practice management, ergonomics, ethics, and case acceptance. He is recognized for his industry knowledge and outstanding ethical standards. My God, I could go on for 5 pages. You want me to keep going? Dr. Ivy Peltz, Ivy D. Peltz, has a private practice in New York City at ivypeltzdds.com. She received a master's in higher education administration from Baruch College, the City of New York School of Public Affairs in 2005, followed by a PhD in 2012 in higher education from the Department of Administration, Leadership, and Technology program in higher and post-secondary education. So you're a double doctorate. You're a double doctor. I mean, that is amazing. I mean, to become a doctor is one thing. To get a doctorate in two things. She is a fellow in the New York Academy of Medicine, the Pierre Fauchard Academy, the American College of Dentists, and New York University College of Dentistry's Academy of Distinguished Educators, and is a member of Omicron Kappa Upsilon. Obviously, I'm not, since I can't even pronounce it. O.K.U chapter. She has achieved mastership in the Academy of General Dentistry. She is past president of the New York Academy of Oral Rehab and New York University College of Dentistry Alumni Association. She has presented at annual meetings at the American Dental Education Association and the Association for Dental Education in Europe. Together, Dr. Peltz and Studley have published numerous articles and blogs. They write a quarterly wellness column for AGD Impact. Some of their articles and blogs include determining when to make a change in your career, successfully managing rough times, maintaining your personal and professional relationships, advice for building confidence as a new dentist, the benefits of unplugging to recharge, express gratitude, improve your well-being, and finding your center with yoga and ergonomics. In AGD Impact, which residency program is right for you? How to get your patients to just say yes? Is the residency program right for me? How to build a long-lasting relationship with faculty members? My God, your bios, the whole damn podcast is going to be your bio. They are both co-founders of Docupations, an online algorithmic dental job matching website at docupations.com, which is why I asked you to come on the show. And based on their backgrounds in dentistry and dental education, Drs. Peltz and Studley were well poised to recognize a needed service in the dental profession. Year after year, they heard repeatedly about the difficulties encountered by graduating dental students who were looking for associate positions. On the flip side, Dr. Studley was hearing from his clients that they couldn't find the job seekers they needed. He began posting jobs on a weekly newsletter, and he sends out from his insurance company. These posts began to multiply until Drs. Peltz and Studley envisioned and then created Docupations, an online algorithmic dental job matching service for all dental professionals. In the short time that Docupations has been live to both dental job seekers and employers, They have seen a strong enthusiasm for this service. Both dental employers and job seekers are sharing their excitement for a product that matches and provides resources for them to review opportunities rather than working within the black hole of larger job boards. Doccupation's philosophy is to populate itself with high-value candidates and jobs. Their model ensures that you can review candidates that match your staffing needs. Employers are reporting that the product is easy to use and they are finding quality candidates quickly to fill their open positions. Job seekers are reporting the same ease and success in completing their job search. Industry leaders and associations are showing their support for Doccupations. Doccupations is a member benefit of the American Student Dental Association. That means that all graduating dental students are provided the opportunity to find their jobs through Doccupations. That is 94% of all dental students graduating each year are looking for employment. These 24,000 graduates will be coming to Doccupations first to match their ideal dental job. So my question is this. You know, it's easy for me to look at you two and know that demographically one's a man, one's a woman, or if one's from China and one's from Ireland. But the hardest thing in dealing with people is when you realize that the senior citizens think differently than the baby boomers, who think differently than the millennials, Generation Xers. And my industry, my age group, I'm 55, like my mom's brother Pat, he got a job with Mobil Oil.
We're 60, so we're with you.
You're a baby.
Right.
Yeah, my mom's brother Pat got a job with Mobil Oil when he was 16, and he retired when he was 67. And when you go to the largest market cap companies in the world, FANG, Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, Google, and Microsoft, their average millennial doesn't even stay 2 years. In fact, Apple's average millennial doesn't even stay a year. And when I talk to, the big corporate dental chains like Aspen and Heartland, they make all the news, and everybody's saying, well, their doctors just turn and burn. The average one only stays there 1 or 2 years. It's the same in private practice. And every time I talk to someone my age, I say, well, what about getting an associate? They go, it's not even worth it because you hire them, and within a year or two, they're gone. I mean, millennials are a different bird than baby boomers. So on Doccupations, my gosh, what is the burn and churn rate of a job of a graduate, of a kid coming out of dental school?
Well, you know what? And great starting point. Simply because now it's a very different environment. Between the two of us, we've been teaching like 30 some odd years. And it's a different, so that millennial student, the same way that you say they don't stay 2 years, but now they also look at things a lot different, where they are more willing to plant. They're actually less likely to run around. They want to develop a quicker relationship, and if they can settle in sooner. So my thing is more that older dentist, that 55-year-old dentist, 60-year-old dentist. It's more, we have to change our thinking a little bit. And now let's start building that dental practice as not just a place that has a revolving door, but is a place where I'm going to, way back the way it used to be. Remember back in the day, you got that associate job and you pretty much became the partner, years later. You knew it was going to happen. The medical model was always like that. The dental model has to really be that way. And I think it's more that dentist that's hiring that associate has to put it out there that, this isn't not a revolving door. And you can now build your practice within my practice, and we'll develop that way.
Yeah. So I think that's really a piece of it. And then there's the piece, memory is a very funny thing. But mine at times is horrible, and at other times is very good. And I recall very well that when we got out of dental school, I had 6 jobs that first year. I didn't want to leave any of them. The people that were hiring me, the stuff that was going on, I couldn't find it in myself to ethically remain where I was. So I needed to leave. So I certainly agree with that piece. And then there's the memory piece that I don't think anything has really changed. I think from the dawn of dentistry, there have been employers who started off as job seekers, and when they were job seekers, they were looking for a certain thing. And then when you're an employer, what you're looking for is different. And until two people sit down and start having a dialogue about where those two merge and how to make it grow and work, I don't think it's really going to work out well. And I think that's really the main problem.
Well, you know, when you go on to Dental Town and you could post an x-ray of something so obvious and 20 different dentists see it differently. I mean, and so when people tell me, you know, because you hear this story all the time that, you know, back when you and I were all in high school, all the pharmacists owned their own pharmacy. Now they all work for Walgreens and CVS. And everybody's saying that's going to happen to dentistry. I don't see it that way because I can't see how you could get half the dentists at NYU to agree that today's Friday. That's why and the other thing I want to ask you, you're in New York, Manhattan. You know, 30 years ago, back in the day, Orthodontic Centers of America was the only DSO that made it to the New York Stock Exchange. It had $1 billion valuation. Everybody said that by now, every orthodontist would be working for Orthodontic Centers of America, and they spectacularly exploded. There was a dozen on NASDAQ, and then they were gone, and now they're back. And a lot of people are saying that these millennials are different than you and I. They don't want their own practice. They don't want the responsibility. They're all going to be employees. But then if they were so happy being employees, why are they changing jobs every year? Why can't they stay anywhere for 2 years if they're so happy being employees? So what do you think, how big of the pie do you think corporate's going to be? Of these millennials that you've been teaching at NYU for 3 decades, how many of them do you think have the personality to go take orders all day at work and be fine from age 25 to 65 working for somebody else?
So I'm going to jump in here. Very few, because most people go into dentistry because they want to be leaders. They are leaders. We have, you know, all of our students have leader type of personalities. So I think those DSOs provide a lot of services for new graduates and in that same respect for employers. And they also serve a purpose, and they're also being very smart about it. Because one thing that they're doing, and this goes back to that same employer-job seeker relationship that we were talking about, is they are providing mentorship. And that's how we know that our students, our graduates, they don't want to jump from practice to practice. They are dying for mentors. The biggest word on their lips is mentor. When you ask what they want when they get out, they want a mentor. How many of us are willing to play that role? That's a big role to play for somebody. And I think we're not seeing enough of that. And as I said earlier, it's not new. It's just the evolution of a dentist, is that the needs are not the same. A new dentist needs a mentor. A dentist exiting a career doesn't want to be a mentor. They're thinking about themselves at that point. They have their own needs and desires. They want someone who's going to take over, take charge, start making them money, and turn into exactly the dentist that they were, which is another problem, is that bit of magical thinking that dentists who own practices have, which is to say, I'm going to find someone exactly like me. There is nobody exactly like you.
Yeah, and so many, it seems so many areas of dentistry have gone the wrong way for the 30 years. My dental office is 3 miles up the street from my house, and we just celebrated our 30-year anniversary. And it's like 30 years ago, it seems like, I mean, the fillings were amalgam, and they lasted 25, 30 years. Now they're inert plastic composites that last 6. They were gold crowns that were soft and, you know, beautiful and nice. Now they're these, gosh darn, zirconium that are so brutal. But back in the day, when you would go buy a practice, the owner would carry. And since the owner would sell you that practice and carry it for 7 years at 10% interest, that seller had skin in the game. So he would stay in mentor. And when he was at Safeway and someone said, what about that new kid that you sold your practice to? He's incentivized. Say, yeah, he's a great kid. And then when that kid had a really upset patient, he could call the guy that sold it and he'd go, let me talk to Mary. She's been a patient of mine for 30 years. And now that's all been disassembled. Now you got the big banks. They go in there, they finance the thing. The seller dentist gets all of his money and then retires to Florida. They're gone. The mentorship's gone. I mean, a lot of things are changing. But in what you're talking about, does doccupations take that into consideration? I mean, when a student, when you were saying the first thing they're asking for is a mentor, is that on the doccupations application? Or talk about doccupations.
Right. So the idea with occupation, so when somebody is looking, and it really also started because the nature of that millennial is also not staying. You know, back in the day, you graduated from NYU, you stayed in New York, you know, maybe you went as far as Brooklyn if your parents let you. But you stayed within a certain zone kind of thing. You really did. I always said I had a restrictive covenant for my mother. So I stayed within a certain area. Also, the license didn't give us as many states. Now the licensure gives you so many more states. And in my lectures to these students, you know what? You have to follow the opportunity. If you are not stuck into, you know, you have to stay in Queens, you have to stay in Florida. If you can go, if you're single or you're with a partner that is willing to go, because I say it's, and these are in a lot of our blogs and articles, it's a family decision where you start and end up. And it really makes a difference. So you could kind of follow the same way when I have a pedodontist who is looking to open in an area or a new dentist, I always say, follow the baby carriages, all right? Because you know that's where you're going to be able to go into a good location that's going to grow. This generation is willing to pick up and travel. And that's why that initial mentorship, because they do know when they work for a lot of these DSOs, and Ivy and I attend, I also insure a lot of the DSOs. So I attend a lot of their recruiting events, and I listen to how they are recruiting and what they're putting out there. And, you know, they're salespeople like everybody else. But one of the things that is out there is that these DSOs will give them a mentor doctor. You know, the ones that are highly successful, that are actually doing good things for the community, because there are groups that are. Those students that we graduate get another year or two under somebody. And some of them like it so much that they stay on. Ivy and I have graduates that have worked for now Heartland, Aspen. They've been there 5+ years.
A managing partner.
Managing partners making a very nice 6+ figure with equity. And they could not be happier. They have families, children. They built a very nice life. I have tons of other clients who they didn't do a residency, but they said, you know what, this year or two with that DSO, that's going to be my residency. Because they all have that somebody that's still going to monitor their work. You know, I get phone calls from them, Howard, that they get upset because on some of the contracts, when they show up late, they take away 10% of their income. And I said, I wish I could take away 10% of your grades when you showed up late to clinic.
If you're listening to this on iTunes and want to see what they look like, I just their Twitter is @docupations.com, and I just forwarded their tweet to my 22,000 homies. Thanks so much for following me @Howard Farran. And you two look like you're freezing to death in front of some lighthouse.
Oh yes, that was on New Year's Eve. We drove up to Montauk Point below zero. That's how dedicated we are.
Is that a lighthouse?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a technology that's come and gone. Those are so neat. So I'm going to hold your feet to the fire. Specifics. How does Docupations work? What does it cost my homies to join? I mean, obviously, you're not doing this with a bunch of volunteers chained up in the basement. How does it work?
Yeah, we have them chained up on the first floor.
They
have a view.
I was like...
So we work with an algorithm. It's an online algorithmic dental job matching company. So if you're an employer, you join as an employer, and the membership fee you asked, if you wanted to post, let's say, one job per month, then it would be $99 for the one job.
$99 a month or $99 for the one ad?
For the one job, for the 1 month of having your job listed.
So it's So if you're a solo practicing dentist listening to this and you're looking for an associate, you place an ad for your associate. It's $99 a month.
Yes.
Right, and it runs for the 30 days. And it's also not just for an associate. It's hygiene, front desk, dental assistant, billing, coders.
Right. So you fill out your profile, and you're filling out some metrics. And then on the other end, the job seeker is doing the same thing. And when you submit your profile, you automatically will match with people who have the same needs that you do. So it's based on demographics and location, and certain other proprietary things that we can't.
And demographics, I imagine, would be the number one thing. There's a very neat TED talk on a dating site about a dating site. She's a PhD from London. It was Cupid, O.K.U. She was trying to do her PhD. You talk about an algorithm, which is a process or a set of rules to be followed in calculations or other problem-solving operations, especially by a computer. And she was, when they're getting their PhD in mathematics, they like to get a bunch of chaotic data like stock prices or weather or whatever. And she thought, I'm going to get dating matches. And Match and a bunch of the big ones gave them all their data, which I'm sure they seriously regret that. And she did this algorithm about what is the most likely thing for you to get a date, and geography just trumped everything. Most people would rather go out with a girl 10 blocks down the street. They're not going to drive an hour on a date. That's how lazy we are. So I imagine your geography is the biggest variable, right?
Yes, it is. It is. Absolutely.
And that's for everything, because I'll get calls from people and they'll say, well, I got this great job, but I have to drive an hour and a half each way. And, I remember my first job, I had to take the train and I thought, oh, that'll be so good. And I also had to wear a shirt and tie, and I thought that would be so good. That lasted about a week and a half, all right? I hated taking the train, and I hated wearing a shirt and tie. That's why after 11 months, I bought my own practice, because I never had to wear a tie again.
And it's a bad business deal, because for 30 years, I lived 3.0 miles from my office. And for 30 years, when someone called, on my business card, it always had my home phone number, my cell phone number, my email. And when someone had an emergency, in my office right next to a grocery store anyway, and of my 4 boys, 1, 2, 3, or 4 would always want to go with me. It was just no big deal. But I imagine if all those emergencies involved an hour commute each way, I just wouldn't have been there for them.
It gets rough. Even when I moved my insurance office, I actually had the staff pick the location, because they spend more time there than I do. So it has to be more convenient for them to get home, the traffic, everything like that. And because of that, we've had 100% retention for over 15 years of the entire staff. So, so demographics is a major.
Yeah. So when I find an associate that sticks around for 2, 3, 4, 5 years somewhere, every single time I say, well, what made you stay? And I'll say, well, I was staying with this doc, and he was teaching me how to place implants. And I wanted to stay there until I really had mastered implants at the level he had done. And then these older doctors, they get these associateships, and they completely screw it up. They'll say, well, I'm going to do all those big cases, and I have this hygienist here, and then you're a glorified hygienist. You'll just do all the fillings and single units, and I'm doing all these big cases, and that's why they leave. And if that doctor was mentoring them with these bigger cases, that they would stay. And of all the DSOs, I know you are probably more politically correct than I am. I had to name my podcast Dentistry Uncensored, but it seems to me the number one place they like working for is Heartland, and their dentists seem to stay, their average dentist seems to stay about twice as long as the others for that exact reason. I say, well, why are you staying at Heartland? Oh my God, I have access to so much continuing education, and I'm going through this Invisalign program and this implant program, and I'm going to stay here until I learn all their opportunities of learning, which is mentorship. And so, that should be in a documentations ad. If you're sitting there putting an ad in for a deal, you should sit there and say, come to me. You're not going to work with, just the single fillings and single crowns. I'm going to mentor you. And a lot of them want mentorship in business. And that's another thing I always tell them, that they're griping that they're working for a corporate. And I'm like, dude, there's not even 30 dentists on earth that own more than 50 offices. If you're working at Heartland, Rick Workman owns 800 dental offices. Are you telling me that you can't learn business working at Heartland? Just start stealing all their forms and letters and systems and data and learn. Most dentists can't manage their own practice. Workman can manage 800. That's a huge gap. I imagine you could learn so much practice management. Aspen is one of my favorites because it's targeted. They're going where all the older fee-for-service docs aren't. They're going into the poor areas, Medicaid, dentures. They specifically target these areas. I'm a big fan of data from Pew Trust. You can go to Pew Trust go to every single state and they'll show you where all the underserved counties are. Like you go to Arizona, on the way to California, we stop at Blythe. Blythe doesn't even have a dentist. I mean, and in Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, North and South Dakota, about 13% of the towns don't even have a dentist. And a lot of these DSOs, a real estate agent will say location, location, location. Aspen, some of these DSOs are like location, location, location. You need to go where they ain't.
Right. You know what? I actually tell a lot of the students, it's almost like opening up. You ever see, why does another restaurant open up next to the other restaurant that has a line out the door? Because then all of a sudden they start getting, so a couple of years ago, New York State, upstate New York, nobody wanted to run there. Nobody. Now, look at all the DSOs that opened up there and the amount of clients that I now have practicing up there in those areas that nobody wanted to run, and they financially are doing well. And you also talked about the demographics, also about the cost of living, raising the family. Like that dollar goes so much further than it would if you opened up in Manhattan.
I think it's also hilarious when they'll tell me, they go, well, I don't want to move an hour, because Phoenix has 2 dental schools. It has A.T. Still in Mesa and Midwestern in Glendale. And about the dumbest idea you could have is to come out of those 2 dental schools and practice across the street. And then I'll sit there and say, Blythe doesn't have a dentist. Eloy doesn't have a dentist. And they go, I really don't want to move an hour away from Phoenix. I'm like, dude, your mom moved from India. She went 15,000 miles for a better opportunity, and now her children won't go 60 miles down Interstate 10. I mean, God.
Right. Mine took, I think, 4 boats, 6 years, they crawled, but they got, and then changed their name when they got here. So, no, I know, that's a very big difference. And also driving an hour in Arizona is a big difference driving an hour in New York.
Well,
it really is. It's
driving an hour, yeah, it's true. Well, it depends what you mean by the hour. If you're talking about an hour in traffic, that's fine. But if it should be an hour and it becomes 3, that's a totally different situation.
So is occupations a success? I mean, or is this a win for you guys?
Well, we just started, Howard. We just opened our doors to employers in August of this year. We've been building our job seeker database, but
we just when we opened, we wanted to have what to offer right off the bat.
So the day that we opened, we matched. The day that we opened to job seekers, and the next day we had an accepted match that we know they're still working together. So we would call that definitely a success.
Right.
Because these are 2 people who were both within our circle, and previously what was happening was everyone was calling Eric, and he was kind of serving as a matchmaker. He was like,
that's my favorite song from what is that?
What's the name?
Matchmaker. Fiddler on the Roof.
Right, from Fiddler.
I don't like to tell people my favorite. I don't like telling people my favorite movies because they don't realize I grew up with 5 sisters. But my favorite movies are like Fiddler on the Roof, The Sound of Music. I mean, I love all these musicals because if I was a little boy and say, well, can we watch the Dallas Cowboys game? Then we do Democracy, which is why I hate Democracy, because I saw how it didn't work my entire childhood. 5 girls would want to watch the Oklahoma, and I'd want to watch the Raiders. And that song, Matchmaker.
There,
What's that?
South Pacific. That was another good one.
Yeah. I don't want to. If you want to talk more about occupation, that's fine. But I want to talk to another thing. You sell insurance, and we all know that when you're 25, you're never going to die. You're never going to catch an STD. You're never going to, break your leg. I mean, they're just risk free. And sitting at my end, 30 years, I mean, I saw so many kids that got married, had a couple kids, then got T-boned in an intersection, no disability, or, hurricanes, tornadoes. Remember 3 years ago when Joplin, Missouri had tornadoes go through there, and it was horrible because not only did the dentist lose his dental office, he lost his damn house too. And now we're seeing the same thing in those fires in the vineyards of Northern California where their house and their dental office burned down.
Yeah. New Jersey that we never had before.
It happened with Sandy.
Right.
Same thing.
How do you tell a 25-year-old that someday they're actually going to die and that they could be one of the 40,000 Americans that get killed in a car wreck, times 10 injured, 30,000 die from accidents, times 10 injured. I mean, they really don't have an appreciation for risk, which is why you also see them investing in idiotic things like Bitcoin. When they ask me, what do you think of Bitcoin? I'm like, well, why don't you just invest in tulip bulbs? I mean, it'd be, at least you'd have a damn plant to plant in your backyard. But how do you teach a kid risk?
Well, I think, especially, for me, it comes across a little different. I was a practicing dentist. I bought my first practice 11 months out of school. I worked for about 5-6 people within 11 months. I sucked in as much continuing education as I could working for these guys. It was just when we were starting computers in the dental office, electronic billing. So, I mean, you talk about, what you could learn. So I learned as I could, and 11 months out, I opened an office in Brooklyn, and within 6 months, I was seeing 100 new patients a month in 1986. 8 years into the practicing, I started developing hand problems. Within that year, I ended up having to have bilateral carpal tunnel surgery. I then had median nerve surgery, ulnar nerve surgery. I've had my hip replaced. I've had my shoulder replaced.
This is the organ recital.
Right. This is me, right? Well, I'm 60 years old, but prior to all this, I was a light middleweight boxing champion. I went to medical and dental school in Guadalajara, Mexico for 2 years. I ran 3 marathons, worked out every day. So I was that guy that, nothing can happen to me. But fortunately, I bought disability insurance and life insurance when I graduated. Unfortunately, I bought it from the wrong person. So I had this huge own occupation type policy that would cover me. So I could teach, I can go into another profession, I can do all these things. So unfortunately, I have to go out on disability after, 10 years of practicing. I put in my claim, I get paid for the first year, $10,000 a month, tax-free, own occupation. I'm going to go back to school to become a psychologist because I was seeing so many at that point. I figured I might as well become one, So I get paid that $10,000 a month. A year in, I get a letter from the insurance company. It says, "Dear Dr. Studley, after careful review," and I always tell my clients, my students, if you ever get a letter that starts with "Dear Doctor," after careful review, sit down because they're not paying back your student loans. And it said that they were going to rescind my monthly benefit. First of all, I had to look up what rescind means. And then when I finally realized what it meant, it wasn't a good word. So I had to start a lawsuit, 7-year lawsuit that I had to sue the insurance company, that I had to sue the insurance broker. It cost me $375,000 out of my own pocket. And after 7 years, I settled. But that compelled me to go into the insurance industry. I went back to school, got licensed, worked for 3 different companies, left 3 different companies because of their ethics, and then started, Studley and Associates. So when I'm out there talking about this insurance kind of stuff, and everybody says it can't happen to them, I always ask them, you know what, give me that crystal ball, because then we could take your money and do it to somewhere else. But Howard, I can't tell you the phone calls I get for the people that I can't insure, who now don't care how much it costs, because now they can't get it. And so we have to try to get that word out that we are not infallible. When we talk in our business classes, and I'm sure you talk about this in your MBA program, that our biggest commodity is us. That dental license is worth $1 gazillion, or $1 gazillion plus now, I think, right? And you got to insure it.
You insure your car.
Right. You see them, they all run out and buy BMWs as soon as they graduate. You can't leave with the car.
Now, you sell, the one thing I've noticed, like in 30 years, is a lot of these implant companies and dental malpractice and dental disability, they come and go. And these young kids don't realize there's a reason this implant is so cheap. And, and you have to use an implant system that when you go to court has research, and they're going to be in, they've been around for a decade, and they have literature and they have R&D. And Guardian is owned by Berkshire Hathaway, right?
Right.
Yeah, and that's just huge. I mean, I went to Creighton in Omaha, and back then Warren Buffett came and talked to our business class. I got 10 extra credit points It's an embarrassing story. It shows how stupid I am. We got 10 points to go listen to him. And so I was, it was 1980.
No, Guardian is not owned by Berkshire Hathaway.
Oh, Guardian's not?
No, Berkshire is the disability division of Guardian, but it's not Berkshire Hathaway. It's Berkshire Life Insurance Company of America.
Oh, okay. I saw Berkshire.
Yeah.
So then I'm going to go to you. What do you think the chance?
But they are still.
What do you think the chance is Guardian will be there 30 years from now?
Right. So it's so good that you talk about this because why in any company. So when you talk disability malpractice, any of those companies, first of all, you always want to make sure any company that I work with always has what we call a reinsurer. So number one, if that company goes, there's another company that's insuring that company. Number two, as an insurance person, like a dentist, you have malpractice. We have what we call E&O. My errors and omissions will only cover me for representing a top type rated company, so that I'm bound to only show you the best. Third, when I represent a company, because I'm a broker, so I choose who I want to work with, I look at financials first, I look at claims paying first, and then I say, okay, I'll represent you. I don't go by representing a company because they'll pay me a higher commission, because I can command any commission. I'd rather work with a company that pays. And you know what? The good thing is, 25 plus years in the disability division, and I've never had a claim denied. I paid one dentist, Howard, $45,000 a month in benefits. All right? That's huge. And that was without a hiccup.
So what all do you sell? What do you sell? Disability, life, malpractice?
Life, health, retirement planning.
Like you said again, disability, life, health.
Life, health, retirement planning. We do full property and casualty, so we also insure the office. We do the workman's comp.
Well, what is health? That's not medical insurance, is it?
Yeah, we do health insurance for the offices.
So you do health insurance for a dentist and all their employees?
Uh-huh, yeah.
Wow, and you can do that in all 50 states?
Yeah.
Huh. And so let's go one by one. Disability. What are the top 3 mistakes that these kids are doing that they need to think about?
Number one, not getting it early enough. So they should get it when they're first graduating dental school and residency, because there are discounts for them. Also, the underwriting is a lot better for them because they're healthier. A lot of them, especially when you talked about the millennials, they're very doctor-friendly. They love to run to the doctors, student health center, for all these different ailments. So now you apply for disability insurance, your medical history is up front. God bless. They went for that little, backache when they took that tough alginate that day. Well, now they have a record that they have a back problem. So they need to get their disability insurance when they're healthy, not call me when something has already happened. Number two, they need to be upfront about their medical history. Because if they are not upfront about their medical history, and now at time of claim, the insurance company finds that they weren't as upfront about a medical ailment, they could not pay the claim. How do you get away from that? I only work with disability companies that will do a full medical at time of application. So all medical underwriting is done at time of application, not at time of claim. All right, companies that will underwrite you at time of claim are more likely to, obviously, not approve the claim. And third is also they should do their homework about the agent or broker that they're working with. And we are very easy to be looked up. We have ratings. They can find out about us because like you said, you want to make sure that that person that I met 5 years ago is going to be with me 50 years ago. And those are one of the most important things when you talk about disability insurance.
Yeah, and that fraud thing, a lot of these millennials don't realize that, we have a $19 trillion economy in a $72 trillion global economy. But within the United States, of our $17 trillion economy, $1 trillion of it is from 1 million attorneys. I mean, they're one out of every $17. And, I just keep seeing case after case where something goes horribly wrong on a dental office case. It goes to court, and then the doc, his best idea is to alter the records. And there's a case where some of these cases where it turns out in the civil case that they found out that you altered the records, while the civil case is going on, they turn over to the attorney general, and now this dentist is in a criminal case in the state of Arizona while he's in a civil case. And it's like, dude, I mean, it's like the lie is worse than the crime. I mean, if Clinton, I remember when Clinton got busted with Monica, if he just would have come out and said, hey, how would you like to be married to Hillary? Everybody said, oh, well, they just walk away. But he lied. The lie was 1,000 times worse than what he did. And you young kids, there's one case going on. I don't want to mention any names, but the child died, and he altered the record. So he had this big civil case, but then the feds came, and I mean, it was go to jail because you changed the records. So if shit happens, don't make it worse by lying about your health history. Don't ever change a chart. You're just going to dig yourself in a hole.
Well, when something bad happens, and bad things do happen, the first thing you have to do is just stop yourself from doing anything. Sit down, take a breath, and try to start to think rationally. And the next thing you have to do is call somebody that you trust to talk it through, because otherwise your mind is going to go to places that it shouldn't go. So I'm sure there aren't that many people who have friends that if in a situation like that, they called up their friend and they said, this is what happened. I think I'm going to take a pen and take a chart and scrape off the ink and write a new entry. I think we could find a friend around who would say, oh, that sounds like a good idea. Those things happen because somebody's in a state of panic.
And I'll give you a couple more examples. I'll go with drugs, and I'll go with sometimes the feds will go into a dental office because he's been eating Vicodin, and the dentists that deny it, oh my God, they just throw the bricks at him, and they usually end up losing their license, going to jail. But when they walk in, if you just raise your hand and say, dude, I can't help it. I can't quit eating these things. It's a big hug. They put them in a diversion. They keep their license. They put them on a P test. And, if you lie to the DEA, you're going down.
But wait, Howard, isn't this what we taught our kids? Isn't this the mom thing? Like, tell me the truth. Don't lie. Ivy and I were actually talking about this to a student or somebody. Remember the Jetsons? And remember Kazoo? Right? He sat on George's shoulder. Right? I'm just having this discussion with someone because also, we're lifelong mentors. You are, I am, Ivy. So we are kind of like a hotline for a lot of young dentists out there or dentists out there where, they'll send us something and say, tell me the truth. What did I do? And it's not necessarily what you did. Okay, this is what you did. It's what you do next that's going to count and how you're going to handle that. So like in anything, that becomes like the bigger lesson. But I'm getting big on having the kazoo on the shoulder routine. Because we all need a kazoo.
And I want to just say one more thing about because dentists, physicians, and lawyers, they know it all, and they think they can just out chess game anybody. I got called into jury duty, and by God, I had to sit through a 3-week trial. And just a heads up, these idiots would say things, and then they would play back their cell phone conversations from years ago. They would say things, and then they would show their text message. Really? You've never met Ivy Peltz? Really? Well, you called her 19 times, and here's a voice of ever. What's that?
Who called her?
I mean, I couldn't believe it. And you know what the latest thing is that the prosecutors are using? Google searches. Mm-hmm. Really? So you never you say say it's for health insurance. So you never had liver problems. How come 10 years ago you Google searched 100 times symptoms for liver disease? So I just saw one incredible study where they analyzed the Facebook post versus the Google searches of a huge portion of the population. And on Facebook, they're posting, oh, we're happily married and we're celebrating our 12th anniversary. And their Google searches, divorce attorney, all. So they call Google searches truth serum. and Facebook is just your self-marketing department. So you post your best stuff on Facebook, and then your darkest secrets are your Google searches, which will be held against you in the court of law. So life insurance, I'm going to switch from disability to life. I mean, a millennial. I mean, come on, she's 25. She's going to live forever. Why the hell should she have life insurance? What are the top 3 mistakes in life insurance? And is it fair to say that you obviously don't need life insurance unless you make a baby?
Right? Isn't that the old thing? That was the old Gerber thing that probably half of our listeners have no clue, about Gerber, other than a baby food kind of thing. And then they don't even use Gerber for the baby food because they make their own baby food. So the whole thing of life insurance is not just for life anymore. Now all these millennials you talk about, they're going to be buying a practice. They're going to be working with, one of the big lenders out there. Those lenders, they require as collateral assignment life insurance. They require as collateral assignment disability insurance, which is great. So now you buy a practice for $500,000. You don't have to go to your parents and say, can you co-sign for my loan, put up your house, and if I default on the loan, the bank's going to take your house. But you could at least still, live with me, mom and dad. So now that young person, that 25-year-old, can take out a ridiculously inexpensive term type of life insurance policy to cover the loan. So simply for that reason alone. Also, if you're smart, when you buy that term policy, you buy a term policy that later on you can convert to something of more permanency, even if you're not healthy. So one of the things that I try to do with all the clients, when I am preparing all their initial stuff at the beginning of their career, it's my job to think 20 years down the line. They're thinking tomorrow, all right? They're already texting, what are they doing tonight, all right? But I got to think about when they're 10 years later, 20 years later, 50 years later, when maybe they're selling their practice. So that life insurance then is used for those kinds of things. So it also then, as a young person, you just lock in your insurability. But it's also used, you have a baby. It's a great way to save for a child. Then when that child turns 18 years old, they have a ridiculous amount of cash value that you could never have given them, for that amount of money.
Hey, if you spend 15 minutes at Geico, you can save 15% on your insurance. When they start talking about babies, I'll say, spend 15 minutes and save yourself about $500,000. There's 250,000 dentists on Dental Town. We have 50 categories: root canals, fillings, crowns. One of them's disability insurance. 60,000 of those dentists have downloaded the app. But I just went to disability insurance. I'm just going to read you just the questions posted. It'd really be a huge favor to me and good business for you if you'd go in there and just answer these questions. I mean, I'll just the top 10 questions posted today, and you'll say, can you get short-term disability for maternity leave? Need disability agent recommendation in Orange County. Need disability recommendation in Southern California. Any suggestions on disability insurance companies? Is it worth it to increase my elimination period? I don't even know what that means. Can you get disability during your residency with exclusions? Should dental students have disability insurance? Seeking advice on my expensive disability insurance. What is an occupation writer? Anyway, I mean, I think great marketing for occupations. I mean, you should just go under insurance, and then there's medical, and there's disability, and there's malpractice. But I wish you'd just spend a day.
Yeah, I'll go in and answer everybody's questions. They also should know that I'm licensed in the entire country, so I handle Orange County and every which way, even Alaska. So I will go into your site. I'll answer everybody's questions, and we really appreciate that.
I think Alaska is the coolest thing. You know one of the most bizarrest thing about dental offices in Alaska? Something that you would never, ever see in the lower 48? Where the patients park, they have electrical outposts to plug into your car to keep the motor heated because it's that damn cold. And they don't have locks on the front door. And the first time I said, why don't you have a lock? He goes, because I'm not worried about theft. I'm worried about someone getting caught out in the cold and dying.
And can't come in that night.
And they say about every 2 or 3 months, they'll come to work in the morning and someone's passed out on their couch in the waiting room. And got stranded. Is it worth it to increase my elimination period? What does that even mean? Do you know what that means?
Yes, an elimination period. So in any disability policy, you could say, I want to start getting paid in 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. You can even do 180 days or 1 year. But then that means you won't get your first check for that period of time. On average, you'll do a 90-day waiting period. So that means on day 91, you get paid, but you're not paid retroactive for the first 3 months. But the longer the elimination period, the lower the premium. So I always try to get my clients to have the longest waiting period and self-insure. So the goal really is to try to have 3 months of all your bills ready to be paid if, God forbid, something happens. And then you can keep your premium lower. A lot of times that younger dentist can't do that, so they need a shorter waiting period. You know, even when you open the practice, so you have disability on the practice. Well, if you became disabled in the first year or 2 years, are you going to be able to pay off that $600,000? Probably not. So you're going to want a shorter waiting period. But 2-3 years into your practicing, now you have the money in the bank, you want to increase your elimination period, lowers your premium, and it saves you money. That's what it should be done.
You know, the funniest thing about Downtown that I love the most is their names. This guy, his name is Fluoride-Free Bacon. He says, do you recommend that I should buy 2 disability policies from 2 different companies to insure in case one company goes under?
Well, you shouldn't buy any disability from any disability company that you're worried about them going under. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, and that's a big thing that people do, they feel, you know, at certain risks. So I have clients, dentists, that make over $1 million. So because you can only get a certain amount per company, I have them in multiple companies. But all the companies do not work together. So if you spread your disability, and especially as a young dentist, and you spread out between 2 different companies, you now at time of claim have 2 different claims. So just because one company pays doesn't mean the other. And I have been involved with that, not with policies that I've sold, but I'm pulled in as a consultant where one company paid and the other company didn't. So if you're going to do that, and I do that with a number of my clients, that it has to be for the right reason, not simply because you're worried about a company going under.
This is so sad. I mean, this guy, his name is Jacked Up on Pete's. P-E-E-T, possibly. What's a Pete's?
Coffee.
Coffee.
Pete's?
Coffee.
Is coffee?
Coffee.
Okay, his name's Jacked Up on Pete's, and this is so sad. He's saying his disability rep is telling him to withhold medical information. What should he do?
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's change agents immediately. I will walk away from a client that asks me to do that. But even next step, I won't take any medical information. I use a bonded service that does all of that so that I am taken out of the loop. In any of the fraud cases that go on, a lot of times it's collusion with the agent. I take the agent portion out of that so that at time of claim, because I'm interviewed when a client of mine goes on claim, and it's so seamless because I ask none of those medical things. We use a service. Never, ever, ever commit fraud. You know, I was doing a presentation at the Greater New York a couple of weeks ago, and this dentist stood up and he's like, "Oh, Dr. Studley, you're this big shot insurance guy." He goes, "Do you have a policy for me when I commit Medicaid fraud?" Now, that first of all was a scary question because he didn't say if, he said when. And then I said to him, well, I started thinking and I said, yes, there is a policy. It's called honesty. It's the best policy. And you know what? If you just continue with that, it works.
You know, I want to stay on this fraud thing because a lot of dentists get mad at me when I post a case of a dentist doing something immoral or whatever. Like biggest backlash I had, there was a dentist in Canada who got busted with a hidden camera in his staff's bathroom, and he was filming his staff. And I said, well, first of all, I personally think about 1 out of 100 humans are sociopath, crazy, batshit insane. And I said, by posting that, if there's a 211,000 living humans in America that have an active dental license, this guy ain't the only one. I mean, the only guy doing it didn't live in Canada. And my hope is that maybe, the other 20 living in America will realize this is a bad thing if it gets caught. I mean, it ruined his practice. But back to fraud. You millennials don't understand that, when you do Medicaid fraud, you're dealing with the government, the attorney general. When you do Medicare fraud, you're dealing with the feds. You go to jail when you lie, cheat, and sell Medicaid. Like, let me give a couple examples of some things I see routinely. If so Ivy comes in and she needs a crown. I say her insurance pay half, and she says, well, just bill for 2 crowns. They'll pay half of 2 crowns, and then I don't have to give you any money and get the deal. Okay, so let's talk about just that. I want to go through this crime. And you're talking about algorithms you open up with. There's an Israeli company, insurance algorithm company, that they're all using that'll come in and sit there and say, okay, Delta, 96% of all your crowns come in single unit. This Howard guy, 30% of his crowns are coming in for 2 units. That's a flag. Go pull those charts. And I can name you 2 dentists in Arizona serving 5-year terms in jail right now in Arizona for doing that stupid crime. But I want to go through that a little more in detail. You do that with Medicaid, you're dealing with the state attorney general. You do that with Medicare, which usually doesn't cover dentistry, you're dealing with the feds. If I send that fraudulent claim to Delta Dental of Arizona, it's a civil crime. If it passes the state line and goes to Delta Dental of California, they set up all those laws to get Al Capone. That's mail fraud, and each claim is a felony and 5 years in jail. And these guys aren't going to jail for mailing a claim to the dental insurance company in their state. It's when that claim crosses the state line. Now you're in the same path as Al Capone. Here's another question. What is an umbrella policy, and is it really necessary if I have disability insurance?
Okay, an umbrella policy, and that's kind of why it's termed umbrella, because it covers outside of certain things. The umbrella policy is tied into your homeowners, your car insurance, and this also leads me to tell everybody not to have DDS or DMD plates on their cars. There's just no reason for that. It doesn't let us park anywhere. It just kind of tells people, hit me, I'm a dentist. I have insurance. So I always recommend not to have those kinds of official tags. The umbrella policy will cover you. It has nothing to do with your disability insurance. So your disability insurance will cover you if you, the individual, become disabled. An umbrella policy will cover you if, let's say, there's a certain civil type of case or certain type of liability above and beyond the limits that you have in your car insurance, then your umbrella policy would kick in and help pay that liability. And umbrella policies are based on, number one, your net value, your net worth. And I would venture to say that if every business owner is working with an insurance agent, they should make sure that they have this, because you can get an additional $250,000, $500,000. But it gives you an additional outside of your malpractice. So something that your malpractice would not cover, your umbrella policy may be able to cover.
Okay, this is Dentistry Uncensored, so this one might hurt you a little bit. This guy asks, which would you pick for disability? Northwestern, Guardian Bookshire, or the ADA?
Okay, so in my professional opinion, I would pick Guardian. And the reason being is because of the definition of own occupation. And that's what separates
the definition of what?
Own occupation.
Okay.
So that means if, God forbid, as a dentist, and let's say I'm a practice owner, I become disabled, or I even work for, Dr. Peltz, and I become disabled, and I can no longer practice dentistry. But I can teach at the dental school. I can come work for Dental Town with Howard, make more money doing something else, and under my own occupation definition, I am still going to get 100% of my benefit. Guardian Berkshire is one of the only companies with those three that gives a full, unobtrusive own occupation definition. With Northwestern, if you are disabled still working in your office and an income is still coming in, they have a transitional own occupation. With the ADA's plan, if you are disabled and still own your practice and have other associates working for you there, they're not going to pay you a benefit. So there are reasons why one is less expensive than another.
Now I want to go on one rant, which is about my column this month, and a lot of people complain about Dentaltown. Probably the single number one complaint on Dentaltown is that a lot of these people are anonymous. In fact, the majority are anonymous. And that was a business decision I made 20 years ago. And I made it with actually Rella Christian. I called Rella, and she agreed with me that there has to be a place for a dentist to ask a stupid question. You know, on Facebook, so like this question, this guy writes, and I'm sure he wouldn't write this on Facebook if you knew exactly what his name was. He says, is HIV covered on disability? And now, if I went on my Facebook page and said, is HIV covered on disability, what are some of the thoughts that some of my followers might be wondering? You know, and when you perf a root canal and you want to know how to fix it, are you really going to post that on Facebook? Back to Facebook and Google searches. Facebook, you're going to post the best root canal you ever did, 5 canals, lateral canals, puffs a sealer, where everybody looks at it and just says, oh. But on Dentaltown, you post your damn perf. I broke a file. And is HIV covered on disability? And so that's why I do anonymous, because when you register on Dentaltown, I know who you are. And I have 2 full-time employees out of 50 who all they do is monitor and approve all those people. And we ping your email every month, whether you wouldn't even know we do it. And if your email comes out now disabled we don't know we're not connected to you by email, we freeze your account. And then you log back on and we say give us your working email, because you might have canceled your AOL.com or your Yahoo or Hotmail and got a Gmail. But I know who everyone is, and but I think Dentaltown is Truth Serum. So please tell Gabanger DDS is God. That's. His question is HIV covered, and his name's Gabanger. Gabanger, is HIV covered on disability?
Yes, it is.
And by the way, I'm just asking for a friend.
Right. A friend of a friend. It is covered if you have the policy already prior to being HIV positive. So if you already have the policy and then become HIV positive, that is a covered disability.
Okay, and the other lady wrote, I assume she's a lady, is pregnancy covered as a short-term disability?
Not on long-term disability insurance. Only complications of pregnancy are, but not all companies are the same.
Yeah.
So, complications of pregnancy, some companies do pay that as a disability.
So my last question, I can't believe we've gone over now. Our program's an hour. We're already at hour 9. I want to ask, well, first of all, is there any questions I missed on Docupation? The reason I called and asked you guys to come on, thanks so much for coming on. The only reason this show is a success is because I'm able to get on great people like you. Is there any questions on Docupations that I wasn't smart enough to ask?
Well, I think we just want to really make everybody realize that we're a new company and we are set up for success for everybody in the community, and we just need everyone to join. That's what we need. So please check us out on Facebook. We have some promo codes that will give you free memberships. We would like to offer our services for free until we can pretty much be very confident that you're going to have good results.
Well, you got 250,000 dentists on Dentaltown. It blows my mind how many people in the dental industry spend all this time posting on Facebook, and they have like between 500 and 5,000 followers. It's like, if you're going to do that, why don't you cut and paste it and also post on Dentaltown in front of 250,000 people? But the thing on Dentaltown is we don't allow spam or anything like that. You have to answer questions, but your signature, below the line, your signature of your post could say, Dr. IVD Peltz, occupations, website, picture, photo. So there's a lot of subtle marketing on Dentaltown, but you have to go in to share the information. You can't say, if someone has a question on disability, you can't go in there and post, well, private message me and I'll tell you. Well, that's spamming the board. What we want you to do is answer the damn question so that other people can learn and read and share, because there might be a follow-up question by someone else says, what do you mean HIV covered? I'm worried about chlamydia and gonorrhea and syphilis. Are those covered? And so I think you could do a ton of marketing just answering these questions. Last question. I want to ask this to Ivy, who's a devil doctor. There's a thread on Dentaltown that just absolutely exploded. And it was basically, I started the thread with an article from The Economist, basically saying that basically it's a huge marriage problem when your wife makes more than the man. And that all through the history of time, the man had the big coal mining job and the manufacturing job, and the wife stayed home, or maybe she had a waitress. And now so many women are doing so much better. So back to women dentists. These women dentists, their husbands always say to me, that it makes them feel bad that their wife makes more money than them. And I just say, well, don't think about it while you're vacuuming. And, but a lot of, this is a big problem. And I have a lot of women in tears that don't even want to start their own office because they own their own practice and they're making 175, 250. Their husband's working at some Fortune 500 company, a management job, making 60,000, and he gets promoted. And he's got to move from Phoenix to Seattle. And he says, come on, honey, let's go. And she's like, what? I make 3 times a year. I have a repeat business. I have a clientele. I mean, Jiminy Christmas. So Ivy, it's a new world. When I was little, I grew up in Wichita, Kansas. We went to Catholic Mass every day. Every woman I know stayed home and raised, 6, 8, 9 kids. Only the man had the job. What marriage advice would you give now that dentistry's gone from pretty much a male profession to now a 50-50 male-female, and you have so many women dentists that are the breadwinners of these families, and it's playing with their husband's mind? What would you advise her?
Well, first of all, I am in no position to offer marriage advice to anybody, so I just want to set that record straight.
Hey, the guy who wrote Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, he had more divorces than most of us.
However, I definitely was very aware of that when I graduated dental school in 1983. I had some relationships where that did play a factor into the relationship, but I've seen a huge change in our society and what's accepted, and I don't think it really is affecting this next generation very much. In fact, I would say that there's actually been a little bit of almost a backlash where the young men seem very willing to allow that situation to occur, where the wife is the one who's the main breadwinner of the family, and the husband is actually, we have an apartment in Manhattan, and when I go to work early in the morning and the children are being brought to work, it's by the dads. It's all the dads. The moms are at work already. So there definitely has been a shift, and I think that if a couple is having trouble with it, they should seek counseling, because basically a marriage, in my opinion, is a partnership. And if you're having trouble with the dynamics of the partnership, it really doesn't matter who's earning what. You are in a partnership in a corporation together, which is called your family, and everything needs to get taken care of by somebody, and it doesn't matter who's the person doing it. Whoever it works out for better at any given moment is the way that it will most likely work best.
And I think I can speak on behalf of all 4 of my sons that you should never get married or have children. That's what Ryan tells me every day. But hey, we're way over. I want to tell you guys thank you so much for coming on the show today. You'd really help so many people if you just go on Dentaltown and just started answering, rifling through those questions. Let me tell you something about Dentaltown. So there's 250,000 dentists. They posted 5 million times. But it doesn't matter if the thread's, a year old, 2 year old, 3 year. Whenever you post on a thread, it bumps it to today's active topics. 80% of the dentists get on Dentaltown. They read today's active topics. And the difference between Dentaltown and Facebook is real simple. MySpace, Friends, it all started out with email groups. So you just open up your email and there'd be this endless unorganized emails. And that's what Friendster, MySpace, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, all did. Just an endless news feed, which is great to see that, you spent New Year's under a lighthouse. That's neat. But when you're digging deep, I say news feeds like email groups, MySpace, Friendster, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. They're just a mile wide and inch deep. But when you're trying to learn how to do a root canal, you need an inch wide and a mile deep. So what happens, even if the question was asked a year ago or 2 years ago or 3 years ago, it's still being viewed. And what happens is you develop this FAQ. So every thread on Dentaltown is searchable. Like if I went to your Facebook post on Facebook, because someone told me you posted this great blog about something, whatever. What am I supposed to do? Go to your page and just start scrolling back for eternity? Whereas I can go to a message board forum, go right to insurance, and then I'm not talking about health insurance or life insurance. I'm going right to disability. And, so I like it searchable. So whenever you post an answer, it'll put it in today's active topics for 24 hours. And
I wanted to add one other thing about occupations. I know we're running out of time, but we are a career resource center. We have a career advice section, and it's divided into sections so that people can search to some extent the information that they're looking for. So that is another resource. If rather than Facebook, they can go directly to doccupations.com. You don't even need to be a member to get into the blogs. You can be a non-member of Doccupations, go to our blogs, and see our career advice section.
And when you write a blog, when you spend all that time writing a blog, you can also cut and paste that and go to Dentaltown blogs and paste the same thing there.
We will be more.
Hey, last and final question. I'm in Arizona, and it's actually cold today. It's only 74 degrees. But we're hearing on the news that you guys got hit by some cyclone, thunder, or what was that called? And is it hitting you guys?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
What is it called?
It's called a pain in the butt.
I thought it was called like a bomba blast, or I don't know. I don't know.
It was. We live on the beach, so we got hit pretty heavy. I actually had a tree fall through the roof of my car. So
last night,
yeah.
Wow.
It's been a rough 12 hours.
Well, we had a storm here it was about 3 weeks ago, and it blew my lawn chair over. And I had to go out there and set it up in my underwear. But anyway, but again.
How about buy me a new roof for my car? I'll buy you lunch.
Lawn chair.
I'll buy the lawn chair. I'll buy 2 of them so you can sit with your...
Final question. I won't bother you anymore. Final question. Nobody can understand about New York, New Jersey. So when people come to Arizona, 10% are from California, the rest from the Midwest. They all go to Phoenix, Glendale, Mesa, Tempe, Chandler, Queen Creek, blah, 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 blah. But every time they move here from New York or New Jersey, they only go to Scottsdale. And I've been to New York and New Jersey 1,000 times. I've been to Scottsdale 100 times. What is the deal with New York and New Jersey? They're in love with Florida and Scottsdale. They would never consider living in Phoenix or Mesa or Tempe or Chandler. So what's the deal with Scottsdale and New Yorkers?
It really has become. It was almost. I think it was when the Jews, migrated and took over Brooklyn back in the day, and then when that sect was going to retire. It really was. It was like Florida was and then, but if you had a couple of more bucks, you go to Scottsdale.
Oh, so Scottsdale's the higher class than Florida?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
Awesome. I did not know that.
Move a little further away from your kids. You went to Scottsdale.
But I did have an uncle who moved to Glendale, right. Just so you know. These names are familiar to me.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. Well, he's the only New Yorker I know who lives in Glendale. That's I'll put that on my trivia pursuit list. Hey, thanks for coming on the show, and please log on to Dentaltown and start answering some of these questions. It'd be great for the kids. It'd be great for your business. It'd be great for me. Have a rockin' hot day.
You too. Thank you.
Bye.
Are you a dental professional looking for a job or looking for the right dental employee? We know it can be incredibly hard to find the right job or the right employee for your practice. Doccupations is a service created by dentists for dentists. As dental educators, we see talented, smart, hardworking students having trouble finding a job. As dentists, we know how hard it is to fill the right jobs with the right people. Our vision is to easily connect dental job seekers with dental employers. Doccupations is our solution. Doccupations is easy to use. It works by using its own unique algorithm that will make your next move so easy you'll be able to hire or get hired almost instantly. So why wait? Simply create a profile, start matching and searching, and find your dream job or hire. We fill jobs, you fill teeth. With Doccupations, it's smiles all around. Guaranteed. Sign up today.